Hey, what's up, fight fans? Will back once again for another fight card prediction. We're going to be breaking down UFC 220 from the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, as the big men take center stage here with the heavyweight title on the line and the UFC light heavyweight title on the line as Stipe Miocic faces off against Francis Ngannou in the main event, with Daniel Cormier facing off against Volkan Oezdemir in the co-main event. As always, thank you so much for the support. 28 new subscribers. Thank you so much. Great way to start the year. Let's see if we can keep it going. Hit that goal of 2,000 by the end of this year if possible. I really appreciate that. So thank you to all the new people that have subscribed. And as always, the faithful fans who've stuck with me. Thank you so much. Coming off UFC Fight Night 124, looking back at that, went 9-2. Really nice card. The two picks I made wrong were ones that James Krause is a little bit of a wriggler. It was my original kind of feeling I had in that fight, but Alex White had every opportunity to win that fight in my opinion, and Daniel Taylor was just a bad pick. JJ Aldridge was just a better fighter. So yeah, having a really good start to the year. Shout out to MMA God who went 11-0 over there at other channel. Good on him for doing that. I think it's his second year in a row he's went that with the first events of the year, so props to that dude. As always, if you can just try and subscribe, comment, like, subscribe. Let me know your picks down at the bottom, what you're thinking about maybe betting, and maybe some DraftKings picks. Who have you got some guys in mind that you might have a little look at? My podcast, MMA Huddle, I'm going to put down the link down below to the YouTube channel and to the latest episode. So go and, if you haven't already, go and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can listen to me talk more about fights from last week, from this week, some questions from people who listen, and you can also send in your questions as well to us through on there. So go and help me out, help John out by subscribing to the channel, and go and listen to our podcast. Overall with this card, I like it a lot. Main card's not great. I think the two top fights really sell it, but there is fighters on there. Thomas Almeida I'm a big fan of. Alexandre Pantoja is a great fighter. A lot of the guys from the Dana White Contender Series are making their debuts here as well in the UFC, so looking at getting into it very, very shortly. And then obviously we'll be moving on to next week with UFC on Fox, Jacare versus Brunson 2. So let's get into this fight card and let's see if we can pick out some winners. Also, I made a UFC Pick'em League. I'll put the link to that down below. If you want to join me and a few of the others that are in there already, by all means come and join us, and let's see who finishes top for 2018. So starting in the lightweight division, we have Islam Makhachev against Gleison Tibau. Now this is interesting. Gleison Tibau, I was wondering where that guy went. I totally forgot that he got a ban for using banned substances like 2.5 years ago. I was wondering where that guy was, maybe 2 years ago, sorry. So he's been out a long time UFC veteran in the UFC, and pretty much a gatekeeper to maybe breaking your way into that top 15 in that division, in my opinion as well. Just a solid veteran, a really hard-nosed solid veteran who, I think he says he's 34, 35. That guy must be older than that. He looks like he's in his early 40s, maybe mid-40s at least. It wouldn't surprise me in that, with them Brazilian supplements that he's been taking. Islam Makhachev is a guy I really like a lot. The main training partner of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and pretty much got a game fairly similar to his. You know what those Russian guys are like with their grappling. Very, very strong, even against elite grapplers and good grapplers alike. Tibau's a good grappler, strong. I think here Makhachev will out-grapple him, and I think he'll do it fairly convincingly as well. I think when it comes to the feet, I like what Makhachev throws. He's a pretty good counter striker, a good left high kick, a good teep to the body as well, which he sets up for that high kick usually. And once he gets it into a clinch where he can put his hands together, he's going to take you down and he's going to ride out rounds through that. He did that against Nick Lentz, who's a very good grappler in his own right. Tibau, I mean, he beat Abel Trujillo, then it got changed, and then it was a loss in his record. He lost to Tony Ferguson before that, so interesting. Ring rust against a guy like Makhachev, I think he's going to struggle with it here. How do I see Tibau winning the fight? Making it close and maybe getting takedowns of his own, or or trying to get to positions where he could win rounds. I just don't see it. I don't see him really beating him on the feet. I think he's a good grappler, but I just don't think he's a great grappler. I think Makhachev has all the makings of being a really good, great grappler. So I think you can see the way I'm leaning there. I'm going to go Islam Makhachev, be a fairly convincing 30-27 decision there. I think he will make this a breakout performance. Maybe try and push for a finish and get himself out there a little bit more, because he is kind of just like Khabib's sidekick now. So Islam Makhachev, I think, will be a confident pick for me in this card for sure. Women's strawweight division, Marina Moroz against Jamie Moyle. Initially when I heard this fight, I thought, right, Jamie Moyle, can she get takedowns? I think she can. I think that's a weighty victory for her, but can she hold her down there? I don't know. Moroz is a big, lanky girl. She's long. She can throw her legs up and get submissions. She fights at a really good distance, uses her boxing, sometimes leaves her chin in there to be hit. Moyle is very short, and she's got a reach disparity here to try and get inside that range of Marina Moroz and try and find that chin. Jamie Moyle 4-2, coming off a loss to Viviane Pereira, where she really kind of got out grappled in that one, and just out kind of manned a little bit by Viviane Pereira. Beat Kylan Curran, which is expected, but she took some licks in that fight, and it was a lot closer than. It wasn't really close, but she took a lot of unnecessary punishment, I believe. So I'm going to pick Marina Moroz. I don't think she's that overly that good, but I think she's better than Jamie Moyle. The one thing that worries me here is I think Jamie Moyle will get a couple of takedowns, and can Moroz find a way back to the feet? I think that if she can keep her distance and keep Moyle at bay and not get put against the cage and taken down, I think she will win a couple of these rounds. So I think you can kind of see the way I'm leaning. She's lost to Letourneau and Esparza. Esparza, I think, is still a top 5 girl in that division, and a far better grappler than what Jamie Moyle is. So I'm going to go Marina Moroz. I'm going to go 29-28. I think she keeps that distance. I think she uses that long reach, long jab, and just paws away at that and wins rounds through it. But she cannot be put down on her back here, and especially being kept there like the Esparza fight, because she will lose rounds and she could ultimately lose the fight through that. I just don't think Moyle will do it, so I'm going to pick Marina Moroz. Another side note to this, Jamie Moyle has moved to Team Alpha Male for this fight, training predominantly with Cynthia Calvillo, so potentially a submission grappling might be a little bit better. You know what Calvillo's like on the ground there. But I still like Marina Moroz for the win. I think this can be fairly comfortable if she fights to her full potential. So Moroz for the decision victory there. Moving on to the featured fight of the UFC Fight Pass prelims, we have El Fuerte Enrique Barzola against Matt Bessette, who's coming in here on short notice after Arnold Allen had to pull out due to visa issues. Matt Bessette lost on Dana White's Contender Show to Kurt Hollabaugh. Was very aggressive but got stopped in that one. If you watch his fights, he is very aggressive everywhere. I think he's a powerful striker. Don't think he's the most technical guy. I don't think he has the greatest head movement. I think he will be in a lot of fun fights for as long as in the UFC if they match him up properly. I think once he go to the ground, he's pretty strong off his back, and he's pretty strong from top position. But I think that Enrique Barzola, in my opinion, is a really underestimated fighter in the flyweight division. I really like his fighting style. Predominantly a wrestler. I think in his last 2 fights he's averaged like 16 takedowns, which is a lot of takedowns. With his only loss coming to Kyle Bochniak, which I don't think he lost that fight to Bochniak in all honesty. I think I picked Bochniak to win that fight, and at the time I was like, he won that fight. Went back and watched it. Barzola won that fight for sure, so he should be in a 4-fight win streak here in the UFC. Chris Avila and Horacio Gutierrez are his wins, and Gabriel Benitez, who I believe is a ranked fighter in that featherweight division now after his win over Jason Knight. So that says a lot, that you can beat a guy like that who's very aggressive and very dangerous and fights very well to a good game plan as well. I see Bessette being too aggressive here, looking to make this a brawl on the feet, and I think he's going to get taken down repeatedly. I can see him getting back to his feet, but I see Enrique taking him down, rinse and repeating, kind of like Kamaru Usman last week, just really breaking him and beating him up. I think this is the fight that I haven't looked into DraftKings all that much. I'll probably won't until later in the week, but Barzola might be a really good player. I think he might be quite popular right enough, but he'll be expensive too. But I see rinse and repeat takedowns. I see it being fairly even on the feet. I think when Beset gets too aggressive, Barzola will use angles and leg kicks and just keep him at bay until he gets in close, and then he will find and shoot in for those takedowns and take Beset down. I don't think Beset will find a submission. He could, but I really like Barzola. I think he's a really solid fighter at featherweight, and I think he wins this very convincingly. So 30-27 there for Enrique Barzola. Staying in the featherweight division, we have two guys from Dana White's Contender Series. We've done Ige against Julio Arce. I must admit, I liked what I've seen from Dan on the show. I think he's striking. He has a lot of work to do on it, but he is predominantly a wrestler with really good takedowns and really good top control as well. Now, in that fight with his opponent, whose name is left my head right now, he got taken down in that fight, but eventually he kept working. He kept striving to get those takedowns and advance to better positions, and he found a submission in the third round there. Julio Arce is a guy I've known about for 3, maybe 4 years. Tiger Schulman guy. I always like guys that come out of that camp. Very technically sound, proficient strikers. Golden Gloves. He fought in Golden Gloves competition, so a fairly decent boxer, a really good kickboxer, and his only 2 losses are to Brian Kelleher, who's in the UFC. 13-2 record. He was on the Dana White show. He beat Peter Pettis. First round it was a little bit slow. He was kind of feeling out his opponent, but in the second round he came out, put it on him, and then really it was just a barrage of shots once Pettis hit the mat and just unloaded on him and really put a beating on him. I think he's another one of these guys that can be an exciting fight, but I see this as a 50-50 fight. I think on the feet that Arce is the more proficient striker, but I think that Dan can hit him with some shots. I think there is openings there for Dan to get off here. I do think he will get takedowns in Julio Arce as well, so I'm going to pick Dan Ige by a split decision in this one here. I think takedowns win the fight. It kind of reminds me of the Mads Burnell fight from last week. I think it could be 1-1 going into round 3, and whoever gets that takedown or stops that takedown wins the fight. And I think I'm just going to go with Dan. I'm kind of leaning on that. It's a fight I'm not hugely confident in. I don't know the odds in this one. If I'm saying anything, I think Arce will be the favourite. But I like Dan just to win via takedowns. Very, very close fight, though. I'm, as I say, not overly confident. Like Arce, either guy who wins this fight, I'll be quite happy, because I think they're decent additions to the featherweight division. A lot of work to do, but I think they can stick around in the UFC. So Danny J versus a 29-28 split there. This is the fight, one of the fights I'm actually really looking forward to in the whole entire card. Dustin Ortiz against Alexandre Pantoja. I'll start off with Alexandre Pantoja, who I've been to a lot of fight cards over the years, but this guy's performance in Glasgow, when you're sat there and you're looking at a guy fighting, and it was just, I could not take my eyes off his movement, his leg kicks, his heavy striking for a flyweight, his angles, his choices of strikes, just mixing it up. He beat up Neil Seery really badly in Glasgow and got a dominant win there with a finish. And it's just a guy under the radar that I don't think a lot of flyweights will really want to, once they get the opportunity. If this guy was, the contract was on the table, I think there'd be some guys that steer away from him. Was obviously in a tough show, didn't do as well on there as what he wanted it to, but come into the UFC and won a split decision over Eric Shelton, then beat Neil Seery with a submission in the third. I like him. I just think he's overall a really good talent that comes from a really good camp. Black House. I think he trains a little bit at King's MMA as well. So in this matchup, I think he has got a clear step up from his first 2 fights in the UFC with Shelton and Seery to Dustin Ortiz. Dustin Ortiz, the guy I like a lot. but sometimes he doesn't show up. But when he does, he shows up and destroys the party. A lot of people were on Hector Sandoval last time out, and he came out and he absolutely starched Hector Sandoval and put him down in the first like 30 seconds of the fight, if I remember, maybe even first 20 seconds of the fight in that card in Mexico City. But he is dropping fights. He's one of these flip-flop fighters at the minute where he's winning fights and losing fights. Lost to Formiga, beat Makhachev via dominant grappling. Lost to Brandon Moreno where he got subbed in that one. I didn't really see that one coming, especially him getting stopped. And then obviously the win over Hector Sandoval. I think he's still training out of Tennessee, not out of Rufus Sport anymore. But he only really loses to good guys. Benavidez good, Wilson Hayes good, Jose Formiga a good fighter. Moreno's dangerous and a young fighter as well who will jump in submissions if he gets the opportunity. But he got hit with a high kick in that one and got put down as well. So the way I kind of see this fight going is Ortiz, I think, will want to grapple, want to clinch up, and I can see Pantoja not getting taken down. I can maybe see an odd takedown for Ortiz. I don't think he keeps him there. I think that Pantoja fights and picks away at Dustin Ortiz and just really uses his striking. He's really solid all around striking to win the fight. I think if it was to go to the ground, he's very dangerous down there. He can't have Dustin Ortiz on top because he can dominate and he can stifle and win rounds through that. Initially I thought this was going to be close, then I watched the fights of Pantoja and I just really like him in this spot. I think that he's got the speed advantage. I think that Ortiz has the strength advantage, but I don't think he does enough to kind of take down and win rounds through that. So the way I'm leaning here is I'm going to go Alexandre Pantoja via a decision. Do I see Dustin Ortiz win the round? Sure, he could make it very, very close, but I just feel a lot more confident in picking Alexandre Pantoja there. So Pantoja via decision. Moving on to the welterweight division, a rematch of a couple of months ago. Abdul Razak Alhassan against Sabah Homasi. Initially I picked I picked Alhassan and he won that fight. It was a bit of an early stoppage, it was a weird stoppage back in Detroit. I think it was at UFC 218 and this got rescheduled very, very quickly. Those guys went at it in that big round. A lot of heavy leather was landed. Both guys looked gassed. I thought that Hassan had the better striking. I thought he had the bigger power, but Homasi hit him with some big shots. Now I can't go back. I picked Alhassan fairly comfortable in that fight. I'm not as comfortable as I was in the first one, but he did win the fight. I thought he was on the way to winning that fight before it got stopped, kind of a little bit controversially there. So I can't really change my pick to Sabah Homasi here, but Homasi found openings in that fight, so that's something that you have to be careful with. When we were throwing, he was slipping off to the left and throwing a big right hand and catching Alhassan, where Alhassan was just throwing power shots. He doesn't really set up his shots that well, Hassan. He throws a lot of power. If he was to set up with some jabs or a couple of feints, or a leg kick or something, if he was to set it up, I think it would help him a lot in this fight here. I'm going to pick Alhassan because I do think he is slightly the better fighter. I think he's a better grappler as well. I think Homasi even took him down in that fight, if I remember off the top of my head. I'm going to pick Alhassan via an early TKO in round number 2, but I think this could be like the first fight, back and forth. I just think that Alhassan has the more power and he has a little bit more tenacity on his shots to put Homasi down and beat him again. So Abdul Razak Alhassan via TKO in round number 2. And the featured fight on the UFC, on Fox Sports 1 I should say, we have Kyle Bochniak against Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis is another guy off of Dana White's contender series, Tuesday night contender series. He's coming off a really good win over Austin Arnett, where he that was a back and forth fight. There was a lot of shit talking, there was a lot of strikes delivered, there was a lot of blood. He opened up a nasty cut in the forehead of Arnett, but it was back and forth. There was definitely openings. Brandon Davis throws. He predominantly wanted to keep it on the feet, threw a lot of strikes, but he had his head in the air. He had his hands down a little bit. You could easily break the guard with a good jab against this guy. Bochniak is a guy that I think fights close and he's overall a fairly solid fight. I don't think he's great, but I do think he has the tools to beat Davis here. Davis is one of those guys. He comes from Mississippi, I believe, trains with Jason Knight, trains with Alan Belcher. So that camp's kind of crazy. They'll try things. They're very aggressive. I think there's openings for takedowns there. I think Bochniak, I think he's the more technical striker. I think Davis definitely hits harder. But I think Bochniak can maybe get takedowns and make this close. I see this being a very, very close fight, in all honesty. I think that it could go either way. I feel more confident picking Kyle Bochniak. Been in the UFC a little bit longer. He's fought decent guys. He lost to Jeremy Kennedy last time out, who took him down and won that via a decision fairly convincingly. So he had that win over Barzola, which I thought he kind of lost. But it is what it is. It's a win for him. I'm going to pick... I can see this being 29-28 either way, but I think Bochniak will get takedowns to win rounds. I think he'll be the cleaner striker. As long as he doesn't engage in a brawl, pick his shots, angle off, very striking, and just doesn't engage in the brawl. If he engages in the brawl, I think it could be a long night for him. He could take some big shots. So I'm going to pick Kyle Bochniak via decision in that one there. So we're now moving on to the main card here, and it starts off with a doozy. I'm looking forward to this fight. I think outside the two big fights at the top, this is the fight I'm looking forward to seeing. Thomas Almeida faces off against Rob Font in the pay-per-view opener here. I sat and watched Thomas Almeida fights this afternoon, or yesterday afternoon I should say. Great fighter to watch. You can see holes in his game, but the kid has got a lot of qualities in his game also. Precision striker, very accurate, picks his shots extremely well. Nice foot movement at times as well. Sometimes his head movement is a little bit bad. It's always on the centre line, and it's a little bit up sometimes, and his hands just dip a little bit where he can get hit with shots. That's where Jimmy Rivera caught him in the last fight. But he is a dangerous striker. Throws heavy knees, throws all kind of limbs at you, and it's just always in the fight. In that fight with Jimmy Rivera, the one thing I will say that a judge, gave that fight 30-26 to Jimmy Rivera, and I was like, what? I thought Almeida won the second round. I think he hurt Jimmy Rivera, who has a great chin on himself, but we've seen the kind of fighters that he loses to. Thomas Almeida, your hard power punchers, hard guys to take down, and can take you down as well. The threat of a takedown. Garbrandt, I think, could have taken him down. In that third round, Rivera took him down. But if he's worked on his defense, his head movement, I think he can really put a stand-up beating on Rob Font here. Now, Font's a solid guy. It's a guy I really like watching. Coming off a pretty devastating loss to Pedro Munoz down in Brazil, where he got submitted there. Coming off a really nice win over Douglas Silva de Andrade. And Rob's fighting at home, so he's going to be pepped. He's going to be ready to go for this fight. But I think if this fight stays on the feet, I think the more varied and dangerous striker is Thomas Almeida. There's not too many guys that will want to stand with him for too long. If they engage in a brawl, I should say, because Almeida, he's shown that he's got patience. He sets up his strikes very well. We saw that against lower class guys like your Burchaks and Morales. If he's got time to pick his shot, you're in trouble. Where people like Rivera and Garbrandt really rushed him with his striking, and he just couldn't get off, and he was rushed, and he just got taken out, especially by Garbrandt. But he did get a little bit outclassed by Rivera. I think Rob Font could possibly take this to the ground. I think that Almeida has a black belt. I'm a little bit unsure. I'm not the biggest fan of guys that young having black belts, because whether it's warranted or not. But I think Font might maybe want to take this to the ground, or maybe clinch up and try to do it there. I think Thomas, if this is a stand-up fight, I think he's the better stand-up fighter personally. And I'm very, very confident in him here. I've actually bet on Thomas Almeida for this card. Got him at -117, which I thought was a rather low line. But a lot of money has come in Rob Font, so maybe other people are seeing different things. But I felt more confident in picking Thomas Almeida in this spot. Can I see him getting a finish? I can. Maybe early round number 3. So I'm going to pick a stoppage in this one. if not a decision, but I'm going to go with a stoppage. TKO victory for Terminas there. Gian Villante against Francimar Barroso, not a fight I'm overly looking forward to. I think that Barroso will want to be able to kind of play the spoiler here. Villante will want to look to put this guy down with big strikes. And honestly, it's not really a pay-per-view fight. I would rather have like an Ortiz or Pantoja in this spot, or even Alhassan, Homasi, because you know those guys are going to swing for the fences. But it is what it is. They put it on there. They think it might be an exciting fight, and it might be warrant the pay-per-view buy. I very much doubt it does. Villante is just, he's got some decent striking, but he fades very quickly, and he has to be careful against Barroso, because Barroso's not good, but he will stick around if you don't get him out of there. He could get takedowns on this guy. Coming off that loss to Patrick Cummins and Shogun Rua, where he got knocked out in the third round, where he started very well, but just ended up, like, as I say, wearing away and getting hit with big shots and then getting taken out of there. Patrick Cummins, he got taken down. He had spots where he could have won that fight, most definitely. But the longer the fight goes on, he gets very, very sloppy. And Barroso doesn't really throw an awful lot at all. He will look to clinch up, make it dirty, and try and steal rounds through that. I'm not for picking Francimar Barroso, but I think he could be live here. I think it gets sloppy. I think Villante eventually finds a TKO victory, but I'm not confident. So, sloppy fight, second round TKO for Gian Villante there. Now this is a good matchup. This is good matchmaking in my opinion. Calvin Kattar against Shane Burgos. We'll talk about Calvin Kattar. I kind of probably showed this guy a little bit disrespect in his UFC debut when I watched the tape. And see, that's the differences with fighters that you've seen in the regionals, and they've got that opportunity to fight in the UFC. They can raise their game, and I think he did that against Andre Fili, where I think Andre, maybe he did drop the ball a little bit, but Calvin Kattar took over that fight and he looked exceptional in my opinion. Very good striking. Anything that Fili was throwing, he was counting beautifully, and really he put a beating on Andre Fili for all 3 rounds of that fight and looked comfortable in doing so. Thought he fought within his means, didn't overexert himself, and just fought a really nice fight, really impressive fight. And I'm seeing a lot of people writing him off in this one, and I'm not going to be one of those guys. I like Shane Burgos a lot, but I think Calvin Kattar he can fight up to his opponent's ability, and I think that if Shane Burgos is fighting at his ability, this could be a very, very interesting fight, back and forth brawl. Shane Burgos, I thought he had a great finish in 2016 and even better 2017. Like what I see out of him, but I think there is definitely parts of his game you can exploit. I think you can counter strike with this guy. I think sometimes he puts his hands low and you can catch him with that, but he is a devastating striker himself. He TKO'd Charles Rosa. Charles Rosa was getting off on him a little bit though, but wins over Pepe, Thiago Trattoria and Charles Rosa in his short UFC career. As I say, heavy striker, varies his strikes very well built, strong guy, you can see that. I honestly think he's a very well-rounded striker. I see him starting off strong. I see Kattar coming into it in the middle of the fight, and then I think it's all about that third round, who wants it more, who's going to be the more crisp technical striker. I think Kattar could be that guy, but I think this could get into a little bit of a brawl, and that's where I'm liking. I think that Kattar needs to keep it nice and technical if he can, where I think that Burgos will want to put into a brawl, if you know what I'm saying, and try and win rounds through that. Like both guys, I just like Shane Burgos a little bit more, but I've seen people betting on Calvin Kattar. I think it's not a bad bet. This line opened really, really high, if I remember right, someone saying to me. So good luck if you guys are betting it. I won't be touching this fight. I'll be sitting back and enjoying it as a fan, and I'm going to pick Shane Burgos. Very close decision though. That's what I'm picking here. But be careful of Burgos late on. He seems to get a lot of finishes late, and he seems to come on very strong late in fights. So that's who I'm picking. I'm picking Shane Burgos for your decision. Co-main event of the evening. Daniel Cormier defends his UFC light heavyweight title against the #1 contender in Volkan Oezdemir. I'm seeing a lot of people very heavy on Volkan Oezdemir. People I respect betting on Volkan Oezdemir here. And I don't see how you can warrant throwing a lot of money in this guy. I really don't. I know what we've seen in his UFC foray so far, where he's blitzed guys, like his last 2 fights in 70 seconds, I believe it is. But DC is a different level. If he can't take him out in the first couple of minutes, what does he really offer? Can that power carry over into the late rounds 2 and 3? I don't think it can. I think Cormier's a different beast. The one interesting thing with this fight, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is where is Daniel Cormier's head at? He is coming off his biggest loss of his career. Now, he lost to Jones before, but this was big. He was doing extremely well in that fight. He was in that fight and then got caught against the greatest all time. He's one of the best fighters we have in the UFC, but he's just lost to the greatest fighter that the UFC, I think, has ever had in Jon Jones. Then to come and have that disappointment of being knocked out, stopped, then Jon Jones does what Jon Jones seems to do now, and then he has his belt back. That must screw with your head so much. It must be hard to get yourself in that mindset that you are the champion again. So you want to wash that as soon as you can. You want to get back in the cage and right that wrong. And you've got a guy here in Volkan Oezdemir who I think he can feast upon. I think the grind will eat Volkan Oezdemir alive. If Volkan can't get off that shot early, which he has done before against Sirkunov and Manoa, I think that Daniel Cormier is going to eat this guy alive with takedowns, top control, and eventually I think he finds a TKO victory or a submission victory. But the biggest concern for me is where is Daniel Cormier's head at? So it's an interesting fight in that aspect, but personally I can't see anything other than a Daniel Cormier win. I don't think I'm going to be betting this one. I have looked at a parlay with him and Makhachev, which comes to around plus money, or just under plus money, or evens I should say. So I have looked at that, but I haven't. I'll wait till the weigh-ins and stuff like that. The people that are betting Volkan Oezdemir, if I don't bet on Cormier, then I wish you the best of luck. I really do. There's some big money being thrown around, so good luck to you guys. I struggle to see Volkan lasting too long in this fight and not having that much to offer. I think the grind will wear him out. He has obviously Anthony Rumble Johnson in his camp to tell him about some things about DC, but I think he's like a poor man's Rumble Johnson. I don't think he's anywhere near as good as what Rumble Johnson is. I think if these two were to fight, Rumble would knock Oezdemir out fairly convincingly. I just think he's got, I shouldn't say lucky, because he throws those shots and he maybe has this Superman type power that can take people out with one shot. I just don't see it. I think Daniel Cormier whoops that ass here, and second round, maybe early third round, I think he stops Volkan Oezdemir. I'm going to go late second round to I'm going to go submission. I'm going to go submission in round number 2, a rear naked choke for DC. Gets that monkey off his back, the Jon Jones fight, gets his head back in the game, and we'll see where he goes from there and who he faces after this one here. But I'm fairly comfortable as having Daniel Cormier as a confident pick here. So DC for the victory in that one there. And the main event of the night. Oh, I cannot wait for this fight. It is like 1:45, 12:45 AM. I have worked for the next 5 or 6 days, 5 days I should say. But I will be counting down the days so I can get to Saturday night and see this fight. I think it's probably one of the greatest heavyweight fights we've ever seen, or we will see, or at least before the fight. I think that the anticipation for this fight is going to be exceptional. Stipe Miocic looks to defend his belt and make history. He's been the first guy, I think, to defend it 3 times as he faces off against the absolute physical specimen, the predator, Francis Ngannou. And honestly, I cannot wait for this fight. Since Ngannou went through Alistair Overeem, I've been counting down this fight. I thought maybe it made for March. To see that it got made at late January, I was so happy for that. I think there's a lot of people showing disrespect to Stipe Miocic here, but I can see why they would do so, because Ngannou is an absolute beast. I love the story of Francis Ngannou. I think it's a beautiful story, being homeless, finding his way to Paris, being introduced to MMA as he wanted to do boxing instead, and then 2 years later, after being in the UFC, this guy is fighting for a UFC title, and the dude is scary, like scary power. I picked Alistair Overeem last fight. I thought we were really going to see Reem use that veteran savviness and pick shots and find some shots against Ngannou. He came out and clinched, and you seen Alistair Overeem's face once Ngannou turned him and put him against the cage. He was like, holy shit, this dude is strong, this guy is different than anything I've ever felt before. And from there, he decided he wanted to come out and try and swing, and Alistair Overeem got hit with the biggest hook or uppercut that I have ever seen, and knocked the chin. It was, thinking about it now, it's just one of the best knockouts we've had in years. The speed, the angling off, the enormous power that this guy has is incredible. Stipe Miocic, on the other hand, I think he's by far the best all-around UFC heavyweight champion we've ever had. Golden Gloves boxer, really solid hands, and don't sleep on this guy's power either. I think he's got 5 first-round finishes in a row. If I remember right, I could be wrong with that one. So this guy's got power, heavy ground and pound, great wrestling. He comes from a wrestling background. Has been put down before. Stefan Struve put him down. That was a kind of accumulation of shots. Alistair Overeem caught him with a nice straight that put him on his ass. In that fight with Junior Dos Santos last time out, get hit with some heavy leg kicks, but then threw a nice straight right down the pipe that hurt GDS really badly and put him down there. But he has shown he can get hit with big shots and persevere and come through those hard times and win fights. Going down into Brazil, going down into there was a tough fight. I thought what they were doing was silly, running on a guy with a really good boxing in Miocic, and paid the price. Miocic has heart, determination. I think he's just underestimated. I think a lot of people don't appreciate this guy. I think maybe I was one of those guys. I maybe didn't appreciate this guy. And I was a heavy favourite early on in his UFC career. I thought this guy would fight for a UFC title. I was never sure whether he would win the belt, but I thought he would challenge one day. And he's turned out to be one of the best UFC heavyweight champions of all time. If you haven't watched UFC Countdown to UFC 220, Francis Ngannou says a sentence like, this guy, he's saying that Stipe Miocic fears him. I don't believe that in the slightest. I think this is Francis trying to play mind games. Now, in saying that, you've seen what Ngannou's done, the power, the speed, the athleticism, that can put fear into a guy. I don't think Stipe Miocic, I think he maybe did it with Alistair Overeem actually. I think he definitely did it there. I don't think Stipe reads into any of that whatsoever. He's very driven, just the heart of a lion, been in some rough spots and came through it and won fights, and it's a tough fight to pick here. But I'm going to go with the current UFC champion to defend his belt and be the best UFC heavyweight champion we've probably ever had. I think he's going to have to come through some scary moments. I think he's going to have to try and take some shots and survive if he can. That's the thing. All it takes is one shot from this guy and you could be out for a minute, just like Alistair Overeem was. So he has to avoid those big shots. I hope he doesn't want to come out and try and stand and trade with this guy, because I think it ends bad. He has big kicks as well, which you've got to be careful of. We've seen him hurt by kicks, low kicks by GDS in the past. So I'm going to pick Stipe Miocic to eventually come through the storm, get takedowns, and then we've seen that this guy has heavy ground and pound and a work rate down there with Mark Hunt. He kept on going there. Overeem, once he got him down there, he peppered him with shots and really hurt him in that one there. I'm going to go Stipe Miocic, early third round TKO here. I think he could lose the first couple of rounds. I think he could maybe lose the first, maybe win the second. But I think eventually, if he sticks around, I think he breaks Francis Ngannou. And really, I've got no way of, I shouldn't really be saying that he can break Francis Ngannou, because Ngannou has not shown that. I watched his early fights against Enrique, against Blades. I thought did a really good job fighting at distance and hitting with some big shots as well before that fight got stopped. But Francis Ngannou goes up levels every fight, and that's the scary thing there. So I might be making a little bit of a silly pick here. I think some people will say I'm a little bit silly for making this pick here, but I think Stipe Miocic is one of the greatest we've ever had. I think he's got a heart of a lion, and I think he survives the storm to come through and stop Francis Ngannou in round number 3 in a very exhilarating UFC 220 main event. So that is my picks there for UFC 220. We're back next week for UFC on Fox. Jacare versus Brunson 2. Gregor Gillespie's back, so I'm looking forward to that. Solid overall card there. So thank you for sticking around if you already have for this long. 40 minutes in, it seems to be the norm. Get to 40 minutes and I keep talking about these fights. Appreciate you for sticking around. Please like, comment, subscribe. Come follow my podcast at MMA Huddle across all formats of social media. And let's get these subscribers going. Let's see if we can hit 2,000 by the end of the year. Appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart. And I will see you next week for UFC on Fox. Enjoy this main event and co-main event when it comes around this weekend. All the best.